I have had a real flood of really good mandolins in here lately. I had the Gilchrist, that I did several videos on. And then I had that Gibson, the F5 that came in. That was a really good one. But today, I have a 1923 Lloyd Laura. Nah. But what this is, it's a Gibson Master Model Distressed. And it's signed by Darrington. Charlie Darrington. So this is a Charlie Darrington signed Gibson F5 Master Model. Charlie Darrington, of course, was the guy that put Bill Monroe's mandolin back together. And the story is that this is the prototype. This actual mandolin is the prototype for the Distressed Model series. I've known this mandolin for several years, 10 years maybe, something like that. I remember when the owner got it. And, it was fun. What it needs now is it needs new frets. And so I'm going to refret it. And I'm going to use Evo fret wire, which we had some discussion about. But let me show you the difference here. So the owner, first of all, said, Evo's gold. No, I don't want gold. Then I sold him on the benefits of Evo. For the one thing is I have Evo mandolin wire. And it's a good opportunity to take advantage of that. But let me show you the difference between Evo wire and non-Evo wire. So here is the Gibson, which is fretted with regular nickel silver wire, which Dave Harvey did about 10 years ago. And here is my Elkhorn mandolin with Evo gold wire. And you can hardly see the gold, especially on a distressed, varnished, dark top like that. To me, the gold just really blends in with these. And I like it. I can't even tell. When I look at these two like this, I'm pretty hard-pressed to tell. Okay, that one's got a little bit of a bronze tint to it, and this one's a silver tint. But, man, it's not much. So let me show you that again. Turning them around in the light a little bit. So we're going to do Evo fret wire on it because it's a good thing to do. Now what I'm going to do is talk about this mandolin a little bit, the Gibson. Talk about it, what I'm going to do to it, and then I'm going to compare it to the Elkhorn F5 and to the Krishot F5 that's back there on the wall. The reason for that comparison is because the Gibson and the Elkhorn both have tone bars. Tone bar construction where the bracing runs down the sides right here, just two strips. The Krishot has X-brace, which is interesting because I didn't know anything about that when I got that mandolin. I just played it and I go, this is a good sounding mandolin. I liked everything about it and I bought it because somebody had bought it for me, but I approved of it. So, and then when I stuck a mirror in, years later went by and I discovered, man, this is a tone bar brace. I was following it with my finger. And you can reach inside here and you can feel this. You can feel that bracing. And that's the thing to do that all mandolin players do. They stick their finger in here and they feel how far over the tone bar. Is it lower bracing? Is it firm bracing? Modern bracing? Where is that bass tone bar? So this bass tone bar here is like one joint away from the F hole. And this is going to be the same. This obviously is lower bracing. And yeah, it's right there. In fact, it's even a little bit closer than the Elkhorn scooted over just a little bit. So, anyway, but the point of this is I think you can hear a characteristic tone between the two tone bar brace mandolins and the one X brace mandolin. I have played a lot of mandolins over the years, and there's been a couple that I said, is this one X braced? And yes, it was X braced. So there's a characteristic tone to it. If there wasn't a characteristic tone, then the bracing wouldn't make any difference at all. You just throw in whatever bracing you want, and it doesn't make any difference. It's the builder, it's the top wood, it's the tuners, it's the whatever. But there's a reason that you use a certain bracing for a certain sound, and I think you can hear the characteristics of a tone bar brace in that mandolin versus the tone bar brace in these two and the X brace in that one. Now, furthermore, the Krishot and the Elkhorn are both Engelmann spruce top. So you should hear a little bit of the flavoring of the Engelmann spruce top. And to me, it's a little bit maybe softer sound, but it's a rounder treble. Really sweet trebles. Whereas red spruce tops, which I've also played many, I've had mandolins by the same builder, Krishot, where I had the Engelmann, I had a red spruce top, and I had a Sitka spruce top. All from Krishot. I've got a video on that. And you can go back there and you can hear those three. And I think you can hear what I think of as a characteristic tone for each top wood among the same builder there. And if the top wood didn't make any difference, if there wasn't a characteristic tone, then again, you could just throw whatever species of spruce that you wanted. But I don't think that's the case. I think the woods, the construction, have got a bearing on the sound. So when you're listening to the Elkhorn and the Krishot, they're going to both be Engelmann spruce. The Elkhorn and the Gibson here are both tone bar braced, and then the Krishot is going to be the X bar braced with an Engelmann spruce top. But again, I played lots and lots of mandolins with lots and lots of builders, and there's a characteristic tone from these bracings and these tops. So that's what you're going to try to listen for. This cannot be a direct A-B comparison because there's too many variables going on here. But you're listening for some sort of characteristic thing. And you're also listening for a sound that you like. So if you hear one of these mandolins, you go, I like that one, then that kind of tells you, okay, maybe you need to look for these features and these characteristics and this building style in your mandolin. So, all right, the Gibson. The Gibson has a flat fingerboard, which doesn't bother me. I like flat fingerboards just fine. It plays a little hard right now. And I noticed it in playing all three of these, A, B, and C, and actually sitting down and playing this mandolin. It does not do pull-offs and slides and things like that, just slinky as either one of my mandolins are. So that's something I want to fix because the owner has played my mandolins and says, man, if you can make this one play like those, I'll be a happy camper. So what we're going to do is discover why this doesn't play as good as it could. So the first thing I'm going to do is look at the relief real quick. And I use the A string on mandolins because Dave Harvey showed me how flat a mandolin neck really can be. On a mandolin neck, you're playing very much in the middle of the neck. And so having a flat neck is really important for getting that chop chord and getting those chords in the middle of the neck down really easy. As opposed to a guitar, you're up here a lot of times, but then as soon as you put a capo on, you're in the middle of the neck. But mandolins really showed me how flat a neck could be, and Dave Harvey showed me how flat mandolin necks can be. So I'm going to go to the A string, I'm going to hold it at the first fret, and I'm going to come over here to the 12th fret, which is at the body, and I'm going to look at the relief here, and it's got some relief. It's got a little too much relief, really. It could be a little bit flatter. Now, in my nut height, I'm going to hold down here between the 2nd and 3rd fret, and I'm going to look at the gap over the 1st fret. So between the 2nd and the 3rd, makes the string into a straight edge, and it should just absolutely barely clear the 1st fret. This one's actually a little bit low. This one's clearing. That one's clearing. And that one's clearing. So the nut was not a problem. If anything, the nut is a little bit too low. But it's okay because, most of your mandolin things there's a lot of closed stuff. So having a little bit of a low nut is not necessarily a bad thing, If you hit open strings and they rattle, then you're going to have to do something about it. But you can get away with a lot more in a mandolin. So the question now is on the action here. The action on this is higher than my mandolins. And I think what I need to do is I need to take the truss rod and take some relief out of the neck, get that neck down flat. That's going to bring the action down at the same time. So even though we're not adjusting the action with the truss rod, we're going to adjust the truss rod, and as a byproduct of that, the action is going to go down a little bit. And I would check for dead notes on the fretting and things like that. But if you have relief, I have tons of videos on this. If you have relief in the middle of the neck, it can very often make the strings buzz right up in here as you start fretting. So you want to come up here and fret this note, and you want to come up and look at the clearance here. And I have a lot of clearance coming up the neck, so there's no humps or anything going on. A lot of time a mandolin will develop a rising or a hump right in this area right here, which is generally due from having too much neck relief, really. But I have seen some where there's an actual hump, because these are two different pieces of wood right here, where you see this bone bridge right here, and this is a separate piece, and this can sometimes rise a little bit or move. But Dave Harvey's worked on this mandolin, and I'm positive, I'm sure, that he got everything nice and flat, and so there's no issues with the neck. It's actually dropping off very nice as it comes up here. Looks good. So I'm going to adjust the relief just a little bit, and then I will check the axe again. I'm going to see if I can't make this just a little bit slinkier. All right, with all that out of the way, let's A-B some mandolins now. We're going to start with the Elkhorn, then we're going to go to the Gibson, and then we're going to do the Krishot. We're going to do them back and forth. I'm going to play some chop chords, I'm going to play some leads, and we shall see what we get. All right, what do I think about those mandolins? I think when you listen to the Elkhorn and you listen to the Gibson, I think you can hear a certain characteristic of tone in there, and that is kind of, I think it's a scooped mid-range. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. In the middle of the range here, so. Listen to that. Now listen to the Krishot. there's a tone going on there, and I don't know if it's more sustained. I don't know exactly what's going on there, but to me, there's a stronger mid-range, especially on that A, that open A. When I do an A slide like that on this mandolin, I don't know if it comes through the microphone as much, but me sitting here, I get a definite reverb. I get a definite big sound coming out of that slide that's just really cool, you know. I've mentioned it several times in playing this mandolin. That D to A string is really, really nice. I don't hear the same thing. It sounds good, but I don't hear the same thing. The tone goes away from me faster. So let's try this one. And see, that note goes woo, woo. And it seems like the Krishot has got something more to it. Some sort of reverb or something. Something like that. It was holding on that note a little bit longer. There's definitely an echo coming up from the mandolin that I'm hearing that I don't hear on the two-tone bars. This is good sound. You know, I mean, God, these are terrific mandolins, but I'm just pointing out the differences that I hear as a player. Now, when you get up into the trebles on these things, maybe there's more high-end trebles in there that I can't hear, because, you know, I do have a high-end hearing loss. But when I come to this one, that definitely, to me, is a fatter sound. I can hear this one better. That's all I can tell you about it. I can hear this better. It's got a fatter sound to it. It's more robust treble for me. The Elkhorn over here has got really sharp piercing trebles. I generally prefer a little bit of a different pick on the Elkhorn in order to tame those, but those are really bullet trebles to me, which I know what this mandolin does, and I focus on whatever it does best, you know what I mean? So, you know, this to me has a tone that I play to, and the Krishot has a tone that I play to. And then the Gibson I play. You know, the Gibson, every time I pick up the Gibson, I just think, you know, it's a lure. I mean, it's a lure copy, and there's a certain sound that it has, too. For bluegrass, I mean, this is the epitome of a bluegrass mandolin. I feel like the Krishot is a more modern sounding bluegrass mandolin. It's like a Collings, it's like an Ellis. Gilchrist should be in the more traditional camp to me, more over there. But you get to the Collings and the Ellises and the Krishots and the things like that, and they've got a modern, bright tone to it that's nice, you know. So I played that. Neck-wise, the Gibson's got a real sharp V to it. That's the Gibson classic Gibson neck. I have to adapt to the neck just a little bit. It's not bad, but it's definitely not. The Krishot has a rounded V to it, which I've worn off pretty good here. And this one's also just a little bit narrow front to rear, so my fingers can make a little bit more of a bend, and I get a little bit better tone because of that, because my fingers lie in there a little bit more like a violin or a fiddle, as opposed to a fatter neck. I can't quite do that quite as well. So I do like this neck. The Elkhorn over here has got a pretty rounded V, which I have felt on some Gibsons. It's very thick this way, quite a bit thicker than, it's probably the thickest of the bunch. But it's really comfortable because I shaved it. And when I got this mandolin, I liked the neck right away, and I thought that's a very comfortable neck. But it had a little bit of a C shape to it. Too much meat down in here, too much meat down in here. I got my calipers and I made everything nice and level, and then cut the V that I wanted in it. And so this is a super comfortable neck for me. It's got a shellac finish on it. I'm very comfortable with this neck, even though it's a little bit bigger than the Krishot. I can't quite play it quite as clean because my fingers don't quite bend just that little extra bit. So I got to watch my fingering on this mandolin a little bit. Small difference, small difference, but okay. Also, on both of these mandolins, both of my mandolins have abbreviated pick guards, so that the F hole is not quite as blocked. And you'll notice the Gibson, of course, has the traditional great big pick guard, which blocks some of the treble F hole. And David Grisman calls that a treble attenuator because it blocks that, sends a little bit more bass up in here. So that's one thing to think about on here is what effect does that pick guard have on the trebles. Maybe if I took that off, maybe I'd get more of the trebles that I would like to hear out of this, and that's certainly possible. So we can have a quick look at these three mandolins. I sure like them. I really enjoy getting to know, a Gibson master model. It's fun getting to know it and saying, well, again, do I want one of these? Do I want nothing? At this point, I don't want anything. I'm pretty happy with my mandolins, but it's fun to compare all these three. Anytime you get a chance to hear a couple of really good mandolins or guitars or banjos or whatever back to back, I feel like you should listen to him because you might say, I really like that sound right there. And I know for a fact when I went down to my friend Kent's house to learn about banjos, and he's got 10 banjos, and we laid them all out there, and I went through and I played them, and I said, these four, I really, really like these four, and I really, really, really like this one right here. So out of that whole stack of banjos, I had some clear favorites, and it turns out that the four that I picked were the brass hoop banjos rather than a tone ring banjo. And I knew nothing about that. All I knew is that I liked the sound of these four. The others were really good, but these four and this one was just good. I liked the neck. I liked the tone of the thing. It was a small difference from the others, but that was the one right there. So now that I knew that, I went with that information. I went banjo shopping and looked for something like that. I ended up with the 1962 RB100 over here that has brass tone hoop on it, and it's a 1962 banjo, and so that's kind of cool because it's old. It's my birth year. Point is anytime you get a chance to listen to some things and A/B things, I think it's really useful for finding out what it is that you like. It's not a better or worse situation here. I could be happy with any one of these mandolins, but I have some preferences in them, and so if I had to grab one and take off with it for some reason, I'm probably grabbing that Krishot, because overall, even though the Elkhorn has got a lot of sentimental baggage that goes with it, so does the Krishot, and that's probably going to be the mandolin I'm going to take. I just really like that mandolin. I'm getting to like it more and more the more I compare it to other things, and so that's useful for me. You see, I compare it to this, compare it to that, and I'm thinking, this is pretty good. Especially for the amount of money I have in it. And I'm thinking, so it puts a damper on my mandolin acquisition syndrome. So that's why you need to listen to things. There's some variations in here. They got different strings, different tops, different blah, blah, blah. But which sound did you like? Which playability do I like? Which one sort of speaks to me as a player? That sort of thing. So, mandolins.